What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, cloud swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. It is good to be back on a Friday. We got the market selling off a little bit yesterday. So far, a little bit of a rally. The question is, was this bearish engulfing candle yesterday a little too much for the bulls? Does that leave them a little bit with a sour taste in their mouth of maybe buying the dip is off the table, or do we continue to rally? That is going to be the question. We won't know the actual answer till the bell rings at the end of the day. But what I do know is the squadron is in the house. We got Albert with us. We got Bill, Brenda. Good morning to Brian, David, Eric. Jenny is with us. Good morning to Greg, Jay, Jill, Joe, JT. We got Martina, Mike Fritz. Good morning. We got Ryan, Sebastian. You guys are still piling in. I love it. All my people out there in YouTube land. Good morning to all of you. I got Santilla, Lala. Good morning. Santilla says dark cloud. I don't know what that means. Dark cloud, like is it's about to rain by your house, or are you looking at that bearish engulfing candle going? Uh-oh. I know. I know. We were talking about this yesterday. I mean, some people had a little bit of a negative down feeling yesterday, like, oh man, this market's gonna pull back. Keep in mind, it's only one day. It's only one day. We just ripped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row. I mean, depending on what chart you're looking at, like we hung out there. It was not that bad. This is an interesting spot we're in. We definitely have some negativity on this candle, but it's just one day. We haven't really pulled back yet. Even if we pull back, I was saying this yesterday, even if we pull back more, we could still be bullish. Like we could get down to like 224, 227, somewhere in the zone. And it's just still a potential bullish break. So we're not really out of the woods yet on the bearish side. Yeah, obviously there's some fundamental issues underneath the hood. But maybe that creeps up on us and maybe we do sell off, and I don't know when. Is the rest of November look dark and cloudy? Not sure, but maybe it's December, January, February, March, April, May. We there's a lot of time. The market is not really decided by one day. But a few things that did cause that drop yesterday. Number one was the bond auction. We had the 30-year bond auction, which I was expecting a reaction. I think most people were expecting some type of reaction. How big of a reaction we got, that was a little bit of a surprise. But those numbers came in a little bit unexpected from the bonds in terms of what they were selling the 30-year for, or where it came in from auction. And then we followed that with Jerome Powell at the Global Summit, and it wasn't just Jerome Powell didn't say anything new. There was nothing new that Jerome Powell delivered. He said the same thing. The market just chose to focus on the other parts of his speech that we didn't really focus on last time. And then it was a global summit, so you're hearing from other countries as well. Their recommendations on, just be careful on, maybe don't decide not to raise rates yet. Don't decide to lower rates yet in worst case, because some of the other countries are not the same as the US right now in terms of economy. So there's a lot that was going into that, and we picked up a little bit more on the negative sentiment from Jerome Powell, the conference. We had the bonds, so we did have that little bit of a perfect storm, pulled us back. We needed a retest. But today, and keep in mind, yesterday too, the market was gapping up. We had TLT actually gapping down in the morning. So we did have a little bit of a signal in the market that, okay, we might get that little reversal. But we have TLT gapping up today. So now we're doing a gap and go. Same thing with the SPY, same thing with the Qs. We have this little gap and go on TLT, and the question is, are we buying the dip here? Or are we going to go higher? Can we essentially break out of this range, 88.98 on TLT, and continue to bounce higher? We're just range bound. We came down, we tested the VPOX down here on TLT. We look good in that sense. Again, we will need TLT to continue to rally or at least hold if the stock market wants to continue the buying pressure. If TLT starts to collapse and we see those rates, like the 20-year, 30-year, the 10-year continue to increase, it just doesn't give us a lot of breathing room in the market to continue the rally. We might be able to hold it, but it's going to be tough to continue it. So we'll see. We're just a little bit of a chop zone here. We're opening at a very interesting and decent price, right? We're back above yesterday's VPOC. We're still above all of those 4 VPOCs. We're sitting right at the edge of this one, 88.26-ish. So if we could hold that, if we could start to pop from here, next target on TLT takes us right back to that 89.49. We're going to have some work to do to get through one moving average there. Let's take a look back at SPY again, just to give some ranges. But we got yesterday's TLT. I think that will have to come and get tested at some point. But we are, at least it's a gap and go. It is above it. Anybody who missed that dip, this is what I would be afraid of on buying the dip today. This is I think we are still in buy the dip territory. I said this yesterday. This is not really a dip. This is not really a buyable dip yet. Right? We haven't pulled back enough where really the risk to reward becomes attractive. So I do think that if we start to get into and we'll see where we hold right again. Right now, 335.46 is some level of support. I think 435.17 is a little level of support. But I think if we start getting back into this 436.83 and maybe into 437.12, those are going to be the best spots to attempt to go short. You still got this bearish engulfing candle. They are giving us a little bit of a retest, almost 50% of that candle. And I think this might be an opportunity where bulls will say, man, I missed. I was just hanging in there as long as possible. I got zero signal from the market. We're reversing. So I think we're starting to get to a little spot of like, let's lock some profits. Maybe not like, let's all go short. But if we're day trading, we could probably look at to go short. But if you were in this rally and you were just hammering home those profits, you didn't really know when to sell because the market didn't tell you. I think this is a decent area for some people to take some profits off the table. So I would say, and then probably add back if we close this gap down here, we start hitting that 200 on the daily. There's some other spots I'd rather put my money back to work. And if this thing if I take my profits and the market just shoots up from here, all right, there'll always be another opportunity to get back in. But I do think this is starting to hit a spot where at least there's going to be some sideways chop, indecision in a worst case, or maybe we could pull back further. So I'm not really a ultra bull right now, but I'm not really bearish either. I'm kind of sitting on the fence, and we'll see if the market can set something up. But if we get to this 436.83 zone, maybe we get into like 437.04, somewhere up there, I think would be a decent spot to get some protection, get some puts, and start maybe locking some gains in just in case. We have the Qs. So the Qs, same thing, a little bit of a gap up. We got a very good resistance somewhere in the area of 372.39 and then into like 373.27. So that's going to be a lot of work for those bulls. We're going to probably need a good catalyst or good something for us to get through that. I would be shocked if we're closing 373.49 or higher. If we do, there's nothing really stopping us back to the 376, 377 zone. So we will have a lot of room to go, but we've stretched that rubber band pretty far already. To the downside, I'll be looking for, number one, can we break yesterday's candle? This is also, by the way, this is also a 3-bar reversal on the SPY. So let me get that pen ready. There we go. If this candle opens here, well, we close down here. We had all of this range to work with. That's a pretty big reversal signal. So if you were to go short anywhere on the SPY, if you were to buy even puts at open, I don't know, that's not a recommendation, not financial advice. But if you were, your stop is probably going to be up here somewhere, right? We start breaking northbound this candle. All right, take the L. This thing's probably going a decent amount higher, but this is a good spot to try to get some protection, see if you get some follow through. If you're buying puts, market usually takes longer than you might think to make moves happen. So even an inside day today might be an interesting move. And then people are going to be like, it's a bull flag. It could be. Again, stop up there. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. And that's trading. Right? You're going to lose very, very small here. But if we get a deeper retest down to like 362, something like that, 360s, we have a wide open gap down here, you'll make a lot more than the potential risk, which is essentially what trading is. All right. I got some tickers coming in, so let's take a look at some of those. We got Tesla and Nvidia at the top of the list. Tesla. Tessie. So there was my swing trade attempt. Didn't get filled. Good setup. A non-fill on any trade is essentially the same thing as a win. you don't take that step back to move forward. So that was good. But yeah, we had wick of bulls coming in, higher lows, pretty decent bear bull flag. We did break down on Tesla, so it is looking a little bit more to the weak side. We got a little bounce. We are above yesterday's VPOC. The one interesting spot on here, I think we could run a little bit bullish. I don't think we're breaking out and we start breaking this 224.57. I definitely don't think that happens today. We've got massive now resistance, which should have been some kind of support somewhere around 219.01. Again, everything right now is a little bit more bearish. We almost closed that gap. We're very, very close to it. We should have support, I think, somewhere around 207.69 at this point, and then 209.49. That's the bullish case. We at least know where some stops should be. Otherwise, I do have targets. This VPOC here was never retested, 201.39 and then 198.53. If I don't think people are going to view Tesla as like this is the spot to get in. This is the most bullish thing I've ever seen. Even as the market has been making a one heck of a push this last 2 weeks, Tesla's just been hanging out, building pressure, and that pressure, bulls just could not get it to the next level. So the other thing we did yesterday is we looked at and this is, I was trying to make as many bullish cases as I possibly could on Tesla, and this is one of them. We got that bounce essentially at that 618. So if you did miss that move, this is a spot bulls might be interested in taking a shot. So if you do want to take a shot, even below the low of yesterday, if it starts breaking down that again, well, we're probably floating down to this 201 at minimum. So that might be a decent risk reward play, especially if we get a red candle out of the gate. Let's see if pre-market they're moving at all. Let's take this off. Been making it higher lows all the way up. The developing VPOC is essentially moving up higher. You might get a decent break. Number one, we'd have to pass this 210 spot. But I've got a decent looking VPOC somewhere right around 209.56. So if you get a red candle right before market opens, you want to take a break. Your stop still has to be relatively low, probably somewhere toward the low of yesterday, maybe even to like 207, something like that. So that could give you about a $2 risk. It's about a $3 risk reward. 219 is where I'd be out of this thing. So not the greatest setup I've ever seen, but bulls have some hopium in this thing still. It's not dead. It's not dead. Nvidia, what kind of gap was Nvidia yesterday? Retest gap. Retest gap. We tried to play that retest, and Nvidia being Nvidia, it did pop me out one last time, one last pop before it started to rotate, and then essentially did fill this gap. We actually came into the wicks over here. This gap looks impressive. If there was any bears in this thing, shorting this thing, going, this is it. Finally, I'm a Nvidia bear and I'm going to win. Most of them are losing right now, so we'll have to see. You do have some selling pressure up here. Otherwise, this is a pretty impressive gap. I wouldn't mind actually taking this one long. That being said, we will be looking for some kind of resistance at 478.37. We're gonna obviously have to deal with yesterday's VPOC. We're gonna have to deal with the top of yesterday's high on the range. Otherwise, I've got 485. So that's about $11 potential if we could get through a couple things. So we do have a little bit of resistance in the way. Otherwise, that looks like yep, we retested. Now we're getting a little gap and go. Bullish trend continues. I kind of like everything about that one, especially if I can get a little pullback at open. I wouldn't mind attempting that one bullish. We'll see. We got Tesla again, so we covered that one. CVX. It was JP candle. I don't think Santilla, I don't think the candle mainly came from I would actually put more pressure on the bond auction than so much from what JP said yesterday. I would say that's more of the 30-year bond auction candle. JP didn't help, but I think most of that move, most of the breakdown actually came from the bonds, and JP was just not there to save it. So CVX, gap and go, pretty decent. I'd be worried about the volume on this candle. So even if we push into the highs of this one, 144.35, very, very interesting setup though. I do have all the way back to 147.06 has not been retested. We do have a wide open gap in there. I think some of this that was support should act as resistance. That might only give us 144.50 today. Although on this breakdown, we did already retest that. Maybe that's a little bit weaker, could get somewhat higher. I don't know if we hit that gap fill today. That'd be a wild move for CVX. And it's also an inside day candle too. So technically inside day, pretty weak close yesterday. But we are getting that little bit of a gap ago, at least above that opening, or at least above yesterday's opening price. So that's decent. That could be a little trappish. Volume was okay yesterday. It wasn't too crazy. If you like CVX long term, this is probably not a horrible spot to look. You got a decent support, longer term support right where we closed. I got some volume areas, so 143.96 for me. If we could get through that, essentially 144, then maybe we could start making our way up again back into like 152.65 on a longer term basis. But decent support, not a great looking candle, pretty weak. That being said, that makes that gap today a little bit stronger, even though it is an inside day. XOM, yeah, I think all crude is starting to rally today a little bit, which you would think the market would hate. I would hate oil rallying. I like to only buy my crude oil on Black Fridays. That's it. Once a year, I stack up, and then ExxonMobil. I like this one actually a little bit better than CVX. I got one little resistance up here. The volume candle, the real volume candle wasn't until this one here, and then back to this. So if I was to play the two, it would be XOM over CVX. I think I got a little less congestion in the way. I got one spot, 104.13. I'd have to break through that. You got a little bit of a tweezer top up here, so maybe that's where we get the pressure today, 104.88. It's not quite tweezer, it's off by a penny. So for you technical analyses out there, yes, I realize it's not perfect, but it's close. So yeah, first off with this one, 104.10, and then 104.88. If we could break that, and I think eventually we do, 105.48 would be kind of in the realm for that one. Coin is at 95. Good recovery from 88. COIN. Yeah, decent move. Crypto's still going pretty nutty. So I would expect continuation on this one eventually. You do have a little bit. I think we need to pull back. So we have a little bit of a almost shooting star up here. Pretty decent reversal. Still inside of that candle as well. If it dips, I think it could be still buy the dip as long as it stays in this range. The lower you could get it, throw a stop maybe at like 91.35 if you do want to try this one. Otherwise, that should be a reversal. I think if this candle starts to break, this would be one to watch to break to short, which is why you could probably also take it long if you'd like to. So 91.20 would be my stop. That would also be my bearish entry. And if this candle with that volume starts to break down, I think at that point, we probably get a little bit more of a pullback. I'm going to look at resistance up here where we rejected yesterday, 99.78. If that one rejects again, or we cannot break through that, then we're just chopping. So this candle is going to be very, very important. We got a lot of volume on it. And if, I mean, yes, it's red and that's people going to be like, that's bearish volume. It might not necessarily be, right? Obviously, there's probably some profit taking, like you said, from, I mean, really from $70 all the way up to 99. So it's had a good move, not really any pullback, pretty impressive gap up here. And then today it is a gap and go technically just inside day. So maybe if you get a little pullback into like 93.01, see if that holds. And then you can get a stop at like 91.20. That's a decent risk reward. But yep, any of that breaking of this candle, I think would be bad news bears or bear news bad. Either way. Either way. All right, let me see. I'm in a swing on coin. Yes, it still looks good, but I'd be moving those stops if you're in a swing. I'd be very cautious of yesterday's candle. All right, that was it. That's all. We got 3 tickers. All right, any other tickers? Or I think maybe we have like 4 or 5. If you guys have any other tickers, let me know. We'll throw it in the chat. Let's take a look real quick at AMD. AMD, kind of impressive on that one too. Again, we have some wicks up here. We've had a heck of a run on this thing. The only thing really stopping us is number one, we got a little bit of bearish pressure, but those are still making new higher highs on those wicks. As we continue to make new higher highs, we're starting to get a little pressure. People taking some profits. Kind of impressive gap though, as well. I'd be looking at, I think we can get to like 117.23. I'm going to move AMD up a little bit higher on the list. Again, still inside day, so nothing too crazy on it, but also not horrible. We do know that oil's coming up. Is that good or bad for AAL? AAL's, that's dipping down. Probably DAL as well. DAL. Oh, great. I moved my moving averages or fibs around. DAL, same thing. So anything airlines, probably going to be a little bit weaker. Cruise ships, I'm guessing, a little bit weaker as well. Unity Software, they came out with earnings. And I don't think the earnings looked great. Let me see where these guys are actually gapping to. Yep. Kind of breaking down. A little bit of support down here, but I would probably be leaning more short than bullish. Unity Software is gasping for air down here. You got an absolute major pivot. I think all-time lows was somewhere about 21, 28. We're about $1.60-ish away from that. So maybe some bulls are like, okay, let's step in. Otherwise, they did beat earnings per share, but they missed the revenue by $9 million, 9.96, essentially 10. I don't see any reason why this should get saved. The only thing for a trading purpose, and I don't know if it's a zero company or not. I haven't, I don't want to put it there because I haven't really done a real fundamental analysis on it. But it doesn't look great on the chart. This should be a retest gap, and you are essentially $1.60 off all-time lows. So I think the way to play this one, I think there's some people absolutely horrified with this. But again, you have some decent volume yesterday. You've had some decent selling here as well, a bearish engulfing candle. This gave people a lot of opportunities to go bearish into the earnings. I think this is probably a fade. I'd probably look to fade that one, especially if I can get some red candles. And we got a 52-week, we got an all-time low. So if there's anybody out there that was just, man, I really wish I could get some Unity Software, I just don't know where. Probably buying it at the all-time low would get you a decent deal, providing that you just don't make a new all-time low. TTD, the trade desk. Yeah, they're getting beat. Now you got all that resistance above you. Technically, I think this is a retest gap. I think this one could get bought up to about 63.30. So let's see if we can get into that zone. We're at a spot where I mean, we're already getting crushed, but any bulls in here? This I think is a fade at open to 63.30. Let me see if there's any like key breakdown spots in this one. Maybe we start dipping. If we start dipping below 59, I think so. 59.07. That would be your signal for short, and I think we come back down to like 52.89. So this is definitely an area where the bulls are going to try to save it. Strong volume at 63.30. So to me, if I think this fades into there, that would be your short spot. And then if you start breaking, I would say probably about 66.40, 66.44. Then we probably retest all the way up to there. But otherwise, yeah, that's not a good look for the trade desk. MSFT. And then I see Apple too. Microsoft. Crazy run on Softy. Again, we're still going to fight with some of the VPOCs from the last 2 days, 3 days, really. We're at one of them now, so maybe that one still holds. Otherwise, you do have resistance at 63.10 and resistance at 63.37. So a little bit of room to watch. You do have a little bit of a inverse hammer up there, and I think some people might be starting to take some profits on this one. So I just don't think the follow through is going to be as impressive on Microsoft for today. Depending on where this thing closes, if it absolutely rips and closes higher than that candle we threw in yesterday, that would be impressive. Same thing on Apple. So Apple doesn't look horrible. You're still making, even with that down move yesterday, you still made a higher VPOC here. Apple actually, I think, has a lot of room to run, and maybe one of my favorite gaps. I appreciate you bringing this one up. This is one I'm going to watch heavily. You have a lot of room on this one. First stop would be kind of like, yeah, that sucks. 180, 184.48. But if we could get past that, there's nothing until 187.64 and maybe until like 188.85. Apple would be one of my biggest potentials today if it could get going. FRSH, fresh. He's fresh. What was that? Kool in the Gang, I think. Fresh, I don't really see a opening price on this one unless I'm absolutely missing something. Yeah. I don't see an opening price, so it looks like it's opening pretty much essentially where it closed. Pretty breakdown day yesterday. I think we get continuation. If you want to short this one, probably not right at open. See if you get a bounce into like 1742, and I would continue to play that downtrend on fresh. He's fresh. Fresh works. I think we got through all of them. That's crazy. And I still got like a minute left. That's nutty. That is nutty. Let's see. Apple. Watch Apple, though. I'm going to actually get that on my. In fact, you know what? Free market trade. Let's see if we get one up here. AAPL. 3-minute chart. He's fresh. Dang it. They're starting. Everybody else saw it. Market makers are watching my YouTube stream, I think. All right, I have to wait for a pullback. I'm thinking somewhere in the vicinity of like 183, 43, bullish entry. Stops somewhere down here. My personal day trade. It's already starting to pop, so I'll let the bell ring. But AAPL, this is what I'm thinking at least. 183.43 by 182.58. So we'll see. I'm thinking that market opens in 3 seconds. Everybody out there in YouTube land, you've been absolutely incredible. And I'll catch you guys next week. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday.